switch gears here as we are about 48 hours away at the time that we record this from the Miami Dolphins opening up training camp. So let's bring in one of our Dolphins greats here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. This man kicks ass on 3 yards per carry. Alfredo Arteaga joins us here on Donno Daily. Alf, I love he's repping the 5 Reasons merch. He's rocking a sick mustache. What's the occasion, man? For Raleigh, I guess you got the whole goatee going there, but it's weird. The mustache is brown, and then the bottom part is gray, so it looks like you're rocking a stash, bro. How are you?
I haven't gone to Just for Men yet, which I might have to if I start appearing on video more. So yeah.
Oh, man. So listen, I feel like the topic today of the day, Alfredo, and it's kind of unfortunate that with training camp about to start, we end up talking more about a guy who's not a Miami Dolphin, and that's Deshaun Watson, who continually gets linked. Sean Stanley and I were talking about this at the top of the show. Like, I understand that just on the field, if you take the baggage aside, Watson is, in my opinion, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But there is that baggage. There's also the fact that the Dolphins front office has worked so hard to build this roster the right way. I do feel like they believe in Tua, even though a lot of these media reports say otherwise. So do you really think, Alf, that the Dolphins might end up going all in for Deshaun Watson? Because he's not going to be cheap.
Well, it's been reported this morning that Ben Albright, I don't know if you know about him, but he's on the Denver Broncos beat, and he's pretty well connected with that team. But on his radio show this morning, he said that Deshaun Watson has made it known to the Houston Texans that the only team he would waive his no-trade clause to would be the Miami Dolphins.
Wow.
So he wants the Miami Dolphins. It's a matter of if the Miami Dolphins want him. Now, he has, these legal issues that are hanging over his head, but what is also hanging over his head is what's been reported in the last 24 hours, which is that the Texans expect somewhere around 5 assets traded for him, meaning 3 high picks and 2 players, or possibly even 5 high picks and players, which tells me that the Texans are going to make an attempt to try to salvage the relationship and try to keep Deshaun Watson, which is unlikely, but it's at least an attempt. If I had to bet, I would say nothing happens this year, and stay tuned next offseason when something can and will likely happen.
Well, and still, whether something were to come together this offseason or the next, this would depend so much on how much the Dolphins believe in Tua Tagovailoa. And if something were to come about next season, that would probably mean Tua didn't have a great 2021. So, Alf, what's your projection on Tua? Do you think he's going to have a breakout year?
Well, I think he has every opportunity to have a breakout year. I didn't think he was that bad last year.
I didn't either.
He just had, he had some rookie hiccups, but to be fair, everybody loves Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert had a couple of awful games, including one against the Miami Dolphins. So,
and that one against the Patriots, he was rough. What was it, like 5 INTs or something?
Yeah, and the score was 45-0. He couldn't score on the Patriots. A week later, Tua Tagovailoa led a comeback in the fourth quarter to beat that same team. So, I don't know. I think he has every opportunity to have a big year. Does he have a great big year? No, I think he's going to be measured on wins and losses. I think if he wins 10 games and he starts for those 10 wins, I think they're going to give him a longer look, and he deserves a longer look because that's kind of his MO since high school, really. He's a winner. That's why he was a 5-star recruit. I believe he never lost a game in high school. So, right. I do believe he'll have a nice season. Will it be good enough to get into the MVP talks? Probably not. But, a 2.5 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio, quarterback rating in the mid-90s, arrow up, and they probably hit on a guy if he does all those things.
What do you think is the deepest position group the Dolphins offer this season? Is it clearly wide receiver, or is the answer more complicated than that?
I believe it's probably in the defensive backfield, but that's all depending on if Xavier Howard is going to be here.
Yeah.
I have no doubts he'll show up for camp. As you can see, certain guys are getting their bluffs called. Deshaun Watson decided, you know what? I'm not going to pay back $1 million out of nowhere just to prove a point, so I'm going to show up for camp. Stephon Gilmore decided, you know what? I'm not going to pay back $750,000, so I'm going to show up for camp. I think Xavier Howard's going to say, you know what? It's probably a bad idea to give back $750,000 after I just gave back $90,000 for not showing up for the OTAs. So that's a pretty bad start to your offseason when you pay out $850,000. And none of those fines can be waived, according to the CBA. So, yeah, I think at best, we're talking about a team that, is pretty deep all the way around. But, yeah, the defensive backfield is the deepest. Wide receiver is deep. And, that's the popular answer, but they do have guys that, for lack of a better word, are either injury prone or have been suspended as of late. But, we're talking about a really deep team. It's going to depend on health, but the defensive backfield is where they're absolutely stacked.
Let's stick on Xavier Howard for a second. If you were going to put a price on what you think should come back from X in a trade, would you even put a price on that? Or would you say, this guy's the best player on the team, we need to give him the extension he's looking for, let's not even entertain this idea of getting rid of this guy?
Yeah, I think you have to entertain the idea of giving him more guarantees as far as ripping up the entire deal and then, paying him $20 million a year. I don't think that's something that they're even entertaining or even thinking about doing. I think they'll trade him before they do something like that. But can they guarantee more monies down the road to try to get up his guarantees to somewhere around where Byron Jones is at? Some smarter people on the cap on Twitter have worked this out. You're talking about an extra $4 to $5 million a year that they have to guarantee. Are they willing to do that for the next 2 years? And would Xavier Howard accept that? If he accepts that, then we have a happy camper here for the next 4 years. If he says no, then you got to start thinking about trading him. But if I were the Dolphins, and this seems to be the MO around the league, it's, you got to play hardball at least for this year.
So the Dolphins are about to hold the first training camp in their brand spanking new $135 million practice facility. I haven't seen it in person yet. I'm going to get out there at some point during camp because the place just looks freaking ridiculous. And we already have, Stephen Ross making these little jokes, but I think there's truth behind every joke of, hey, if we can't win a Super Bowl with digs like this, we're never going to win one. So quite frankly, Alf, I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to put Brian Flores on a hot seat because he's been tremendous. I mean, 5 wins the first year. He had no business winning 5 games. Then he doubled that win total the second year. But is it playoffs or bust this year for Flo and the Fins?
Absolutely. Last year on our podcast, we said that the expectations were higher than what most people thought. Some people were saying, wait a minute, they just won 5 games, and you're talking about that they expect to make a run at the playoffs? And I was like, yes, look at what they spent. Look at all the draft picks that they used. Like, they made a real run at trying to win some games last year. They won 10. So you got to figure that they considered last season a success. Even though it didn't end in the playoffs, you got to think, going from 5 to 10, that's a success. Where do you go from here? It has to be an upward trajectory, right? So, yeah, if they don't make the playoffs this year, the clock starts ticking. They do expect to be in the playoffs this year, and they expect to make some noise once they get there. They've spent enough money. The team is already built. They've used a lot of draft picks in the first 2 rounds, which are now starters. Yeah. They've churned about 90% of the roster. They got, I believe it's 4 starters left from 2019. So they've gotten everything that they wanted for this team in the last 2 years. It's time to start winning some games and doing something, for lack of a better phrase.
Well, huge thank you as always to this man, Alfredo Arteaga. Make sure you check him out on 3 Yards Per Carry. These guys do an excellent job breaking down the Miami Dolphins in the NFL on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Alf, thank you so much, my friend. Get that Just for Men ready, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me, Donno.